are you listening to? Straight Talk with Kim and Carolyn.
All right, welcome to another episode of Straight Talk with Kim and Carolyn. I'm Carolyn.
I'm Kim.
And we have on tonight somebody who I think is a conservative social media maven in Utah. Can a guy be a maven?
He can be a maven, but really sometimes he can be a wrecking ball. And that's the best aspect.
He's just funny to me.
He's mainstream media wrecking ball.
Yeah, that is true, because he's able to very cleverly point out silliness sometimes in a better way than many of us would. He never sounds angry or mad. He's just hilarious.
Yeah, maybe wrecking ball's not the right. It's just...
No, it's kind of wrecking ball. That's the consequence. But anyway, so we will be talking tonight to Michael Jolley, who has, by the way, left our state, but not refused to continue staying involved in the politics in the state. I worked with Michael a few years ago when we both were working for Senator Mike Lee, and he did great things there and has moved on, has a business of his own. Is it Eagle Equine Products, and then works in marketing for another company and spends some good time doing and saying interesting things that cause liberal Utah political journalists to run for cover, I think, occasionally.
A good long-time conservative kind of grassroots turned grass tops influencer.
Yeah. So thanks for joining us tonight, Michael.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to be called a wrecking ball because my wife just refers what I do on the internet as just trolling.
It's good trolling.
Wrecking ball sounds a little bit better.
It's clever trolling, though, really. I can really appreciate the cleverness in your quips and pokes. So there was one that I noticed. There are a couple that I've noticed in the past few weeks, which is why I reached out to you. There was one last week where there was a funny conspiracy theory laden story in the Tribune, and it quietly and quickly apparently was replaced with what turned out to be the truth. Would you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So Bryan Schott wrote an article. Apparently, someone had painted on, I think it's referred to as the Highland Rock above Highland High School, which typically has an H on it for Highland High School. Someone had painted the Roman numeral 3 on it, so just 3 lines with bars on top and bottom. And Bryan Schott went all in on just the weirdest conspiracy theory. Without verifying having no evidence other than there was a Roman numeral 3 on this rock, that it was related to apparently some right-wing militia group, and even
hate group.
He painted it as just this dangerous right-wing militia group that had painted the Roman numeral 3 on this rock above Salt Lake City as a show of intimidation to Utahns, I guess.
And was that what it was?
No, and I didn't see it until the correction had been issued. Man, if you can see the two articles side by side, it is pretty funny because you've got his conspiracy theory, which he contacted these experts about this group and it was a pretty long article.
It was well researched. The conspiracy theory was well researched. I mean, there were no facts or truth in the actual events, but
no evidence, and even like he said, there's plenty of evidence that this group exists in Utah, and he referred to like some post on the internet from 3 years ago that as proof that this militia group was active in Utah, but. Anyway, so apparently someone contacted him and said, no, that's not what it is. It's to honor this longtime, Highland High School alumnus who passed away a year ago, and it was to commemorate the 1-year anniversary of him passing away because his name is such and such the third. And so the corrected article is just a total about face, and it's it's pretty funny to see it side by side.
Well, so this just happens so frequently with Bryan Schott. The journalistic ethics are there any anymore, honestly? And we've talked on this podcast about how Bryan Schott in particular, how he donor doxed the truckers protest and things like that you just don't do. And are there any journalistic ethics remaining?
I mean, Bryan, Bryan, he is very obsessed with these right-wing internet forums, and so he's just got all these wacky thoughts in his brain, and it reflects in the stuff he writes now. I think he used to be a little better, but he's just gone off the deep end. You read his tweets, and he's an activist. He's not a journalist.
Yeah, well, and it's interesting too that story. So after I saw you tweet this, I went back and read the two stories. I think you posted the two of them side by side, or somebody had pulled one up and tweeted it to you or something, the old one, because it's not available anymore, is it? The original?
No, they had to find the archive of it. So, yeah.
And so after I saw you tweet that, because really you are kind of the best guy on Twitter, I gotta say, you have the best stuff. So I'm a little sad when you don't have much going on. But anyway, I saw this and went and read those two stories. And it's amazing to me that somebody would see that three, make wild assumptions, not check, not ask any questions, but then go off and write a story based on the fantasies in their head and put it in the Salt Lake Tribune, which is supposed to be an actual news source. Probably, one of the main news sources, one of two main newspapers in the state, in our capital city, and they published this.
Well, and plus what the nature of his story was to promote fear and concern among the public that this threat exists out there. It's something we should be worried about. It's something we should be fearful of, and just instigating the public toward a bias that was so untrue.
Well, and can I say too, the whole Q stuff, did that take place during 2020? QAnon, the QAnon stuff. Yeah. I'm like, wait, what? I didn't even know what QAnon was. The only people I knew who did were my liberal sisters. They knew all about QAnon.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's the way it is with these fringe groups that supposedly exist, even though they're probably just people on the internet. Half of them are just trolling the left. But it's like those are the people who are obsessed with it. We're card-carrying members of the right-wing conspiracy, and we don't even know about this stuff.
This is true. That's true. Okay, so there's one other thing I want to ask you about that I noticed you were tweeting about recently, and that is we have an interesting Senate race taking place this year, U.S. Senate. Senator Mike Lee running for his third term. And we have the Democrats who have gotten behind the independent. McMullin's running as an independent, right?
Yeah.
I don't even know. But anyway, they've got
endorsed by the Utah Democratic Party.
Correct.
He is their candidate.
He is their candidate because, I don't know, they don't feel like they can dredge up anyone better in the Democrat Party. I'm not sure. And so they've gotten behind this guy who ran as a Republican for president a few years ago, who, by the way, Mike Lee voted for in that race, which I really find hilarious. But so there are some things. I mean, there was a big debt in campaign debt after that presidential run. And a lot of people speculated at the beginning that maybe he was running in order to pay off that debt, not taking this race seriously. But you put out some things on Twitter the other day, and you had dug into some of this about the fact that he has a C3 from which he has been paying himself some, is it $3 million plus?
Yeah, so a lot to his own for-profit business. So yeah, 2016 he ran for president, and
Did we say his
he still
name?
had
I did once.
Let's say his
but
name.
I'd like to not keep repeating it. But yeah.
Evan McMullin.
Okay.
So Evan McMullin ran for president in 2016, and he still has in his presidential campaign account $670,000 in debt that he hasn't paid. Even Hillary Clinton, she had some old campaign debt before she ran for another office. She made sure to pay that off. But Evan McMullin decided he doesn't need to pay off his debts before he runs for another office. But after he lost that race, he kind of became, this never Trump celebrity, small celebrity. Made lots of appearances on MSNBC, but he formed two nonprofits. He formed a 501c3 and a 501c4. So the 501c3 was called Stand Up Ideas, and the name was later changed to Stand Up Republic Foundation. And then the 501c4 is just called Stand Up Republic. So I was able to comb through the Form 990, which is the form that they had to file every year with the IRS. And I've got 2017, 2018, and for both of them, and then 2019 for one of them. And just from those, you could say 2.5 years, basically, they made $4.8 million in payments to McMullin Finn LLC, which is Evan McMullin's business. So $4.8 million.
Wow.
What is the business?
Yeah. What does that business do? Do you know?
I mean, there's no way to know what it does besides political consulting for his own nonprofits.
My guess is it's probably just like an S corp, that he's the sole employee.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Gosh, like how does that happen? That the IRS doesn't take a look at that? I think some of us have been involved with C3s in the past, and you do kind of have to attest to certain things having to do with self-dealing and payments and employment to family members or to somebody on the board or that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I'm looking
and
at
they had to report it all.
What's that, Michael?
Yeah, they had to report it all because of those ties. Evan McMullin is the principal for both those nonprofits. And then his running mate, Mindy Finn, is involved as well. But yeah, it's a lot of money. And the source of the money for those nonprofits are these liberal dark money organizations, these foundations that are basically money laundering for liberal causes. So to claim that he's not beholden to special interests is ridiculous.
Right. Well, yeah, his campaign isn't. He just is personally.
Yeah.
So what did you find anything when you were just looking?
No. So what is this nonprofit again?
Stand Up
Republic and Stand Up Republic Foundation. The foundation is the 501c3 and the Stand Up Republic is the 501c4.
Okay.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So I want to look at that. Yeah.
And but Senator Lee I was just reading something today, has been able to raise quite a bit of money. Everybody is starting to acknowledge that he's not going to lose this race.
Did anybody ever doubt?
Oh, I don't think any Republicans actually doubted, but I do think that there were some who would love to see him defeated, who have at least been willing to say that they think he could be. Yeah.
Yeah. And if people want to look at my homework on this, they can go to ciamcmullin.com. I put that together just so I could, do blog posts of my research and thoughts on this race. But it's got links to the IRS website, directly to the website for the Form 990 for all those years. And then I've got a link to a condensed version. If you don't want to scroll through all the pages, I've got the relevant pages that show the payments.
So run for office so that you can raise money and then contract with yourself to make money off of your, like most of us who have run for office have really just, worked hard to raise money to run a campaign.
Yeah, well, I guess it depends on what your purpose in running is, right?
Jeez.
So,
Well, this sounds really reminiscent of like Black Lives Matter, the organization. Did that exist for any other reason than to enrich the pockets of its Marxist founders?
well, and we even had, the Clinton Foundation. I think we've all seen how that went, right? And a whole lot of money was made by family and friends in that, it seems.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because on the Form 990, it shows, for one of them, it shows $45,000 in salary for Evan McMullin. And then the other one shows $45,000 in salary. So it's trying to make it look like, oh, he's doing it as a service. But in reality, he's paying his own business millions of dollars because he's not going to be able to buy his house that he has currently at the mouth of American Fork Canyon in Highland if he was making $45,000 a year.
That's right.
Well, and these are the kind of people we like to send to Washington who know how to deal with other people's money in ethical and wise ways.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
Go ahead, Michael.
He had a tweet today that said, "I've committed not to take any special interest money in this campaign."
Again, the campaign won't, apparently. Just he will personally.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you go after that? Did you take your wrecking ball?
Yeah. Well, yes, I have. It's harder now because he blocked me on Twitter, and so I have to like copy the link to his tweet and then tweet my comments and then
Okay, so everybody go there right now.
Yep.
Go follow Evan McMullin. Ask him when he's going to pay off his debts.
Okay.
And where the $4.8 million went.
Okay,
that
now
he funneled to.
how do we find you? Because Michael Jolley's, there are a lot of those.
Yeah, my handle is UT Jolley, which I guess since I'm not in Utah anymore, maybe I have to change that. Maybe I have to be GA Jolley.
No, we know you as UT Jolley. Keep it.
UT
So, yeah. So follow him for clever commentary on all things conservative in the state of Utah.
Now the pressure's on. I also comment on sports stuff too. So
That's true, you do. I just ignore those. I block those out, so I don't even remember. But you're right, you do.
What else are you following right now and poking at, aiming your wrecking ball?
Primarily Evan McMullin, honestly. I want Mike Lee to win by at least 20 points.
Yeah,
I think he will.
Yeah, I think he will too, and I think we all support him.
The Club for Growth, they've supported Mike Lee since the beginning. They every time he's run, they've done ads for him. They've got a new ad out that hits on this stuff. They talk about how when he worked for House Republicans, he made a total of $500,000, and then. And they say, but there's more money on the left or something like that. And so he went and got more money from raising money from
the other side,
leftist dark money organizations.
And honestly, what do we know he was making before he jumped into public office? I mean, nowhere close to this kind of money.
Yeah. And I don't know how much of that $4.8 million ended up being paid to him directly. But it was probably a decent amount.
Right.
And but in all of that, there are over $500,000 in expenses that he owes to people and companies that he hasn't paid. So sounds like the absolute worst kind of person we want to go running country and governing policy in Congress. And
yeah, if anyone is familiar with the Lincoln Project and those guys behind it, they're just the worst of the worst in politics. And Evan McMullin is friends with them, and he behaves the same way. So not someone we want.
All former Republicans.
What did you just say about Liz Cheney? I'm pretty sure I heard Liz Cheney in there.
I honestly haven't. I don't know as much about her and her situation, so I can't really comment on that. But if she's in that crowd of the Lincoln Project, then yeah, not good.
Well, thank you for joining us tonight. This is good. I think that we all ought to be following you. We all ought to be commenting. We all ought to be wherever we can all over the media looking for this type of information being put out and sharing it with our friends. People need to know. Right? Republican turned Democrat, kind of turned moderate, turned whatever. Nobody knows where he stands on anything or what he plans on doing, except for he doesn't plan on caucusing with anybody. We know that much.
Yeah.
Which will make him, somebody argued recently, maybe it was
A
him.
cipher in Congress.
Oh, it will make him one of
Cipher.
the most effective members of Congress, I think is what he's selling. Yeah. So anyway, we need to get you back in Utah, but we're glad you're still paying attention.
Yeah. Everyone visit ciamcmullin.com and read up on a few things that I have on there.
Okay, perfect. Thanks so
All right.
much.
Thanks so
Talk
much.
to you later.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right, so I think we need to have like a regular Jolley moment.
I know, I've
just
actually
felt like-
thought about this. Just come on for 5 minutes and tell
Yeah.
us some funny stuff.
Tell us
that
what
you've
we can
noticed.
help
What
you
are you
troll.
digging up? Yes.
Yeah, he's
So,
kind of a
yeah.
regular. He's sort of our local drudge sometimes, you know.
Yeah, and again, he's just so funny and clever about the way that he does it. And I think these things like the conspiracy theory garbage that was just dug up, most of us just kind of roll our eyes and walk away. But when we can point that out and do it in a clever way that makes people laugh and helps them to realize what's going on. I mean, like I said, the only QAnon, the only people I knew of during the election who even knew what QAnon was were all on the left, and it just made me laugh. They claim this is a conspiracy theory of the right. I think it's their conspiracy theory, and they're just getting themselves all up in a lather about something that somebody probably
So you don't
a
know where to
Republican.
find QAnon?
I or I love Jolley's take though. It's probably just like some right wing people trolling them.
Oh my
I love it. Right? It probably is.
Well, so the whole notion of how absolutely unreliable and untrustworthy mainstream media
That's concerning.
is, and here is a glaring example: a family and a community that honored the passing of one of their local people, and he depicted this as something, so wrong, and the donor doxing and all of these things that we don't trust mainstream media
No.
anymore. We can't, and they prove it to us over and over again, especially local. Especially local.
Yeah.
They cannot help but reveal really strong
Well,
bias.
seriously, what is going on in your head that's the first place your mind would go?
Yeah.
Right? Some radical leftist, a radical group on the right and it sounds like this isn't even a radical group necessarily, or not everybody who
The group the paper accused.
Yeah, but I didn't know anything about the group, frankly. But even if it were, that's the first place your mind goes. How much time do you spend steeped in this stuff? Because the rest of us, like Jolley said, who are a part of the right-wing conspiracy, we don't even know about this.
Those are some right-wing conspiracy lenses that
Yes.
he's got on his face. He can't see anything else.
Yes, which
it's unfortunate because that is, is our predominant, one of the two predominant newspapers, and we can't trust them.
No. And I have my entire life subscribed to newspapers specifically that I do not agree with politically. I want to be able to read reasonable exhortations on those set of beliefs and the way that they see the world, but it is becoming increasingly difficult. And that isn't what I want. I want to understand
Can you just report the news?
And
Just
it's
report the
okay if you see the world differently than I do, and some of that plays into the way you report. If I know it, I am okay with that to a degree, but it's just Crazyville now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's unfortunate because we would just like the news.
Right.
Most of us just want the news.
Well, it would be nice to have a local alternative to the mainstream
Mainstream
media.
Yes, it
but,
absolutely would.
So hopefully we'll see something.
Hopefully something
Anyway,
happens.
thanks for joining us again. Find us where you find your favorite podcasts, and please like and share our information. You can find us everywhere. Fosmu?
Everywhere.
Everywhere.
Let's see, Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, and anywhere you find your favorite audio podcasts, we're there.
Yeah, find us on Rumble. So if you haven't followed us on Rumble and shared us on Rumble, please give us a like, a share, and a follow. Share with your friends. And hope to see you next time.